Hey guys, welcome back to Screenworthy, brought to you by The Mind Refinery. I'm your host, Kyle Bodanis. This week we continue our look into the works of Denis Villeneuve as part of our very slow lead up to Dune. This episode will deep dive into his sci-fi debut, Arrival. If you like what you hear, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you have time, follow The Mind Refinery on social media. Here's the show. Alright guys, we're continuing our ever-expanding lead-up to Dune by looking at the films of director Denis Villeneuve, one of the best directors working today, and our Canadian compatriot and director of Dune. So joining me today to talk about Arrival are Mind Refinery Creatives John Neal.
What up?
And one of the hosts of Buffs and Nerfs, Sam Hall. Oh wait, do we have? Is it Sam Hall or Lanza we have today?
No, it's the worst one. It's the less it's the less engaging one.
I was specifically told that we would be getting Sam Hall today.
I'm fucking like great value Sam Hall, if anything.
Sam Hall White.
It's like Fisher Price. It's like President's Choice Memories of Sam Hall.
Baby's first Sam Hall.
So Arrival was adapted from Ted Chiang's.
Wait, hold on. Do you actually want to introduce me at all?
Oh my god!
Or just leave it as budget Sam Hall.
No, I just fucked up the joke. Okay, no, now I have to go with Sam's joke. Okay, guys, and also joining us is co-host of Buffs and Nerfs, the bad one, Andrew Lanza.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So Arrival was adapted from Ted Chiang's short story, The Story of Your Life, which I believe won a Nebula Prize which is a literary prize for science fiction writing. It was adapted by Eric Hesserer, who almost gave up on trying to adapt the project because no one was willing to, do it. No one was biting. So eventually gets picked up. Enter Denis Villeneuve, who is looking to do his first science fiction film. He's itching for it. And he's approached about Arrival. He agrees, and we're off to the races. So first what I want to do is I want to talk about where is Villeneuve in his career going into this flick? How is he viewed by Hollywood? Why don't you start us off, John Neal?
Well, where is he at? He's a big up-and-comer. A visionary director, up-and-comer. The film he did prior to this is Sicario, which, other than Arrival, is probably my favorite film that he's ever done. And I think we talked about this on the Sicario podcast, I believe, where it was kind of his jumping off point as far as his scaling up of things and his ability to deal with sort of lower budgets and doing more with less. And yeah, he's basically on the cusp pretty much right before Arrival, I would say.
Yeah, he's definitely on the map at this point. You know what I mean? You can definitely see it in the movie, though, like the budget that he was working with Arrival. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more money for this project in the end. But yeah, I mean, he's already made a name for himself in Canada. He's coming off the back of the release, as John said, of Sicario. You had, Enemy and Prisoners before that. And yeah, he was just kind of churning out these like hits, these kind of like maybe like slightly under the radar hits, like maybe not huge mainstream movies, not these huge blockbusters or anything like that. So it's nice to see him kind of go this route where he's going for like more of a bigger sci-fi flick, which ended up in the end to be kind of a smaller picture. But at least from the initial teasers and stuff, you definitely kind of got more of a grandiose scale, kind of more almost like an Independence Day closer thing, while it definitely kind of turned out obviously to be more like a movie about the themes of loss and memory and time and all these other things. So it was just super nice to see that.
I mean, as you guys said, he's the upstart. He passes the first Hollywood litmus test, which is not taking a bunch of cash and setting it on fire on his previous films. Yeah. He does really well with Sicario. Again, I think he was working in the 30s or 40s on that, millions on that budget. Mm-hmm. Please reference the previous podcast for that particular number. And he turns it into, like 200 million domestic. And that's the name of the game, is taking money and making it. And if you do that, you're going to keep working. And, they were likely impressed by the money he was able to turn, his creative, his set management. and they said, hey, we'll see if we can do it. Also, I feel like one of your standard science fiction directors working in the game today would probably be a little heavy-handed on this one as well, because I mean, this isn't like, this is a science fiction film, but like the thematic elements on it and like the focus on it isn't science fiction. So like it's the more in the personal story of Amy Adams' character and just like ideas, that we're gonna get into. Obviously this opened up a massive door for him. So what were our initial thoughts on this movie?
Go ahead, Andrew. Fire away.
Honestly, I remember really wanting to see it, and I remember missing this one at theaters, actually. And I watched it after the fact, after it came out, for home. And I watched it, and I was just absolutely blown away. I thought it was just a beautiful, beautiful film. I thought it was, excellently executed. As I said there earlier, I wish I had a bit more of a budget. There were some, I feel like the CG a lot of times, especially, for instance, like when they're going up into like the, what do you call it, like the ship for the first time, and like the faces are like plastered on the suits. It's just, oh my god, it took me out of it so badly. But anyway, overall, I just like high level thoughts, like top level, I just really enjoyed it. It's just a really watchable flick. It's really tight too. Like it runs really fast. Even though it is like a 2-hour movie, it feels a lot shorter than that. I don't know. At least I felt that way. I was always kind of like looking forward to that next time that they're going to interact with the aliens. They kind of have that time frame to it where every 12 hours is it 12 hours?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, every 12 hours they go up. So kind of have that like time frame, that good pacing to it where, there's that set pacing. So yeah, overall I liked it. How about you guys?
It's the kind of movie that makes you think about it days after you see it. And I think that's probably a good standard to hit for a great science fiction film, because, good sci-fi is always rooted in sort of present day themes. And I think just the fact that Villeneuve was able to sort of take a really creative stance on this idea of being able to see the future and then deciding whether or not to change things. He made it accessible through, a very sort of hard to do science fiction story about, aliens visiting Earth. It's just an angle on it that has never really been explored before, and certainly not this way. So, I mean, I was floored by it. Just the ideas presented and just thinking about, sort of the ramifications and what it means, that was amazing, for me at least.
I mean, I kind of low-key feel it's one of the better science fiction films ever made. It's really fucking good. It was interesting. The performances were great. I loved how the crux of the film was firmly focused on Louise's narrative, centered around the story of her, her daughter, and, this idea of time.
Yeah,
and it being
spoilers.
Circular. I mean, honestly, if you haven't seen it right now, like, we'll do
I know.
Go see it.
Don't listen to a podcast on a movie you haven't seen.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's kind of like Andrew Lance fucking wanting to talk about Rise of Skywalker rumors and stuff. Remember that?
What? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
The better comparison would be the Voldemort thing. Remember, he's like, "What?" Voldemort. When I told him Voldemort dies, he's like, "I haven't seen it."
Yeah.
It was like 9 years later.
It was so bad. I mean, I loved how the story. This whole story was fused with this ideas of language shaping your reality. Communication for survival. All the simple ideas executing this were like kind of blown up in a super complex situation, which is always good. Again, as I said, I believe it's one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. I was really surprised going into it because like I had received no hype. I didn't see it in the movie theater. I saw it when it first came out.
How did we miss this at theaters? That's what I want to. Well, okay, that's crazy. Kyle, what's our excuse? How do we fuck up that bad?
I wasn't like heavy like after after Sicario. I knew who the fuck Denis Villeneuve was.
I watched Sicario at theaters, 100%. I remember.
I didn't see this was honestly Blade Runner 2049 was the first Denis Villeneuve movie I saw.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, okay.
But
interesting.
yeah,
it's a good one.
It's a fucking good one to see. Well, I mean, you can't be watching that one at home. I mean, like, realistically, I could say the same for all of these. But yeah, no, I just, for some reason, he was good, but it wasn't, like, didn't come into my mind as, like, event viewing yet. But now when he puts anything else out, I'm fucking like, we got to go do it, you know?
Yeah.
So let's talk about favorite scenes here. I think there's a lot to choose from. It was so expertly crafted. John, why don't you start us off?
Obviously, the time tripping scene when she's talking to General Chang is probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Damn it, that was gonna be my favorite scene.
Well, see, there you go, and that's why it's the best scene in the movie, Andrew. It just, I don't know, it just hits you so hard when you see it, and you're just kind of like, oh my god. I mean, my jaw was kind of probably open the whole way through that, just because he builds the movie so well up until that point where when you finally get there, you know, you're just floored by it. And it's not even like you're surprised to be floored by it. You just are, just because it's told so fucking well.
Yeah, and that sorry, just to jump off of what you were saying, that moment between her and General Chang, sorry, that was his name, right? General Chang?
Yes, I believe so.
At like that ball, and then he like his performance is incredible.
Sorry, General
like,
Shang.
Shang, sorry, yeah. His performance was incredible. Like his like reverence in his eyes as he's talking to her, and it's like he even says like he doesn't fully understand, but he's like, here's my phone number, and like shows it to her. He's like, I know that you needed to have seen it. Here, these are my like, this is what you said to me. Like his performance in that moment was incredible. It was all in the eyes in that moment, and like, oh, like I couldn't agree more with you, John. Like that scene when it was just all coming together, it was just like you kind of got like little teases of it throughout, and then like as that scene is like hitting you, you're just like, wow. Yeah,
it's a goosebumps inducing scene, like your hair raises on your arm kind of scene, just because of how amazing it is. But yeah, like I agree, man. It's just when it all kind of makes sense is in that scene when you see the possibilities of this revelation in that scene. That's when the movie takes a whole different course in your mind after that.
I'm a sucker for scenes where like smart people are explaining stuff. And so in the film like this, so like any of the times where like Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner were like interacting with the aliens and like trying to figure it out, and like going through that linguistics part, like I was like so kind of really interested in it. And for a sci-fi movie, the big explainy scenes are always the ones that get me, which is kind of why during Tenet, when they're like, and then the bullet comes backwards, I'm like, fuck you. That is shit. I'm like, I got no time for this shit. Fuck this.
The best explainy scene though is in Looper when they're like trying to explain it. He's like, wait, how is that even possible? And he's like, hey, you know what? He's like, puts an end to it right there. He's like, we're gonna be here drawing diagrams on napkins all day. Like, let's just move on.
Yeah.
It's good. Instead of being like fucking getting like Fleur Delacour to like explain, to just be like, yes, and then the bullets come back. And they go
easy on the Harry Potter spoilers, man.
Fleur Delacour.
Yeah, it's too bad you didn't figure out she was in the book after the fucking 7th book. She's in it in the 4th book. Like fucking, so like those explainy things. I'm like, I love those things. So like they break it down. You know, it's interesting to kind of set the framework for kind of the ideas you're gonna go throughout the whole thing. And I just really liked it. I thought Amy Adams, and we're gonna talk about Amy Adams' performance, which was fantastic, moving forward. But I thought like she was really good at kind of explaining that, and I thought that as she explained like those like the heady ideas that were going into it, it really like, and just how they dovetail into the thematic elements of the film was really, really good. So it kind of like explains it. So because I mean, like, I'm going to ask you this question. In terms of thematic elements and what happens at the end of this movie and all this kind of stuff, like how much head scratching were you done at the end of it, or did you like completely get it?
It was a little bit of head scratching, but I got what the film was about. I got what it was saying and what it was trying to do, but there was still some things I was confused about just for like the meaning of them, and sort of it was more about the smaller moments and kind of what was happening, but second viewing, you get the whole thing. And I think this is actually a film that requires more than one watch, to be honest with you, because there's so many subtle details in it that you can pick up after the first watch that just enhance the movie even more.
Yeah, I definitely, you know,
it was a lot to take in. Like, it was a lot to take in as well. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty well kind of laid out in the end what's going on. Like, it's not like a Tenet where you're just kind of sitting there, like, you know, like, I think I got what happened, like, but you understand. In a way,
you did.
in a way. I you know, there's definitely the Van Eyck moments where you're just staring at the screen where you're like, what the fuck? No, okay, there was none of that. There was none of that in Arrival. There was no wondrous, shockingly annoyance for Arrival. But yeah, I mean, obviously it takes a while to unpack. Like, definitely after the movie, you can't just be like, yep, I saw that, cool, like, put it on the shelf and like never think about it again. You kind of have to unpack it, and you kind of have to you know, revisit in your mind, just kind of like you know, think of some of the themes that it was that it was portraying in the film, and, you know, just unpack some of the, you know, just the more high level ideas. But it's I don't know, yeah, I guess overall I got it.
I also guess, like, with any big idea like this, there's also kind of, for me, a little bit of self-doubt. Like, did I get everything? Is there more that I missed? You know,
well, I feel like there's always going to be more. There's always going to be something that you miss, some sort of symbolism or some sort of like visual or audio cue, or like, you know, the way like the cephalopods like said something, like it's actually like if you go into like the audio, and you know what I mean?
Heptapods?
What did I say? Cephalopod?
Yeah, they're octopus. It's just an octopus is walking by.
Yeah. My bad. Just earlier, what you were talking about, Kyle, about Amy Adams and the explaining scenes. I thought one of the best scenes was when she grabs the whiteboard, and then first of all, when she grabs the whiteboard and she starts erasing stuff. First thing I always thought is, every time people are erasing stuff in a movie, it's like, wasn't that important? And then instantly you have Jerry Renner like, no, not the thing at the top.
Yeah.
But anyway, that scene where she's like, you know, breaks down the sentence and like this, like the whole sentence structure, and like explaining like the concept and like the preposition and like the question, blah blah blah. That scene I thought was, as far as like the explainy scenes, I thought that was like the best explainy scene. I love the it's almost like kind of like a Sorkin, where it's like, I don't know, just like the kind of fucking visual representation. Like, I can see her doing that on a window at Harvard or something.
Yeah, just fucking drawing it on a window at Harvard. Of course, I got this right away and kind of judged anybody who didn't.
Right.
No, I'm kidding. I watched it a couple times. I was more like, why are the aliens here to help? And they're 3,000, like, because we help 3,000 years, but then what are they helping with now? But then it's like to bring humanity together so they don't destroy themselves, so that they can help 3,000 years in the future.
What do you think the future help is?
Oh, that's the MacGuffin of the movie, though, right? You're not really supposed to.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Like, what? Like,
I have no idea, no clue.
What the fuck could we help with?
They need our biofuel. They're
that's
gonna
why
farm
it's
us
in
as
the future.
batteries.
We're not.
It's actually a prequel to the Matrix.
They actually have one source of fuel that's more destructive than fucking biofuel, than fucking carbon fuel. They're like, we're literally just destroying our planet, and we only have 4 cars.
Kyle, just before we move on, though, I wanted to touch on that explainy thing. One of the things I actually really liked about the movie is how all of those scenes and sort of the people associated with them were all very reasonable people. Like, even Michael Stuhlbarg's character, who plays the CIA agent, who's kind of supposed to be filling the shoes of the negative Nelly type character, who's always kind of thinking, you know, for the worst case scenario, seems perfectly reasonable to think those things. Like, you're not like, oh yeah, this guy is an asshole or he's crazy. It's like, no, all these things are perfectly reasonable precautions that they're talking about.
Exactly.
But everyone's
he's like
kind
looking out for like national safety.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it all makes perfect sense as well. And those are all perfectly relevant points that he's making, even though you still, you know, want everything that Louise Banks is doing to be at the forefront. But there's still that everyone's working together in the movie, and there isn't sort of a super bad guy who's trying to sabotage anything, which of course is something that those soldiers end up doing later in the film. But None of the main characters are sort of, they feel kind of washy, or their characters are sort of over the top, out of place for their roles. Everyone's kind of got a very refined
I don't know. I kind of thought I'm going to disagree with you there. I thought Jeremy Renner was super hammy. And first of all,
Have you met any theoretical physicists, by the way?
Several. I go to theoretical physicist parties. Theoretically.
Yeah, that's how fucking COVID gets spread, son.
It was a theoretical super spreader event. Oh, Ted Cruz was there. It was great. It was in fucking Cancun. We just went there for the night. That's it.
Because the kids asked.
It's just, hey, you would do it too.
I would.
But having said that, I don't know. Jeremy Renner, first of all, I think I'm biased. Maybe I just don't like Jeremy Renner, but I just thought he was super hammy. Like, I don't know. I feel like his character, I would have seen his character in like Independence Day or something. Like, he seemed like too cartoony in his like delivery of lines. I don't know. He took me out completely. I thought everybody else was great. Forrest Whitaker, like even, what was the dude you said, John? The guy from like A Single Man and stuff?
Michael Stuhlbarg, who plays Agent Halpern. He
was great. Like the scene where he's like, whose phone is that? They're like, it's your phone. And just like his reaction to it.
Yeah.
Like everybody was great in that movie, except I just,
Okay, hold off on the character stuff because we're like going to get into that. We're going to like literally go into it, and I have a number of one-liners to throw into it. So like, I will say this is that they do the tropes of first contact in movies, but they do them in a completely different way and ride them out. Like they always have the guy who's like, we got to kill the aliens. We're fucked. And then it's always like the balance between like, are we going to take like a more martial stance towards them, or are we going to try to like make peace and stuff like that? And I think though this movie starts with those because it's inevitable questions, but then really goes in a completely different direction with it. That's why I like it, because it subverts tropes without like being ridiculous, without making like, you know, The Last Jedi. So I like. We'll move on to performances here because Lanza opened the genie is out of the bottle. I want to start.
My B.
No, it's.
I pre-segued.
When you bring Andrew Lanza onto a project, you have to just understand that anything can happen. Let's start with Amy Adams. First of all, how do we feel about Amy Adams in general?
Lovely.
Thumbs up, yeah. Big thumbs up for Amy Adams. I thought she was great in this movie.
She's really good.
I don't think I've seen her in anything where I really didn't like her, to be honest.
Batman versus Superman is her best role, though.
You know what? I like what's it called? What was the other one before? Man of Steel? Was it John?
Yeah. She was pretty good in Man of Steel.
She was
a good
good.
Lois Lane.
Yeah.
If they actually let her play Lois Lane properly, she's a great Lois Lane. But yeah.
Yeah. And she's one of the only things that's redeemable in Batman vs. Superman, because that movie sucks. Does she have a better role than this one?
I don't think so.
Off the top of my head, I haven't done like a deep dive on her catalog, but I'm going to say this is probably her best role.
For me, it's this and The Fighter. She's really good in that.
Right, The Fighter's good.
But this is
Big
like
Short. Big Short. No, sorry, not Big Short. Wait, no. Wait, was she in The Big Short or no? The other one.
No. She was in American Hustle. She wasn't.
Yeah, she was in American Hustle.
Yes, thank you, American Hustle. I just couldn't.
She also played Lynn Cheney in Vice with Christian Bale, which
right. She was really good.
In my opinion, it's not as good as this, but that was a great part for her in that as well.
That movie was kind of meh. Like
the performances were great.
Yeah, performances were really good. The movie as a whole was kind of meh. Like I didn't mind it.
Yeah, so I think this is probably one of her two best roles. You know, it's subdued and completely on point. You know, in the moments where she's doing that heady linguistic stuff, she's really good. She's totally believable. It's very natural. You know, and just like her facial expressions and her nonverbal communication, just, you know, dealing with the premonition sequences and the dream sequences as if, you know, because she's kind of lucid during them where they're happening and she realizes that she hasn't seen it before, you know, and then that's all on top of like the physical rigors of what's happening and like the stress of, you know, her character's going through so much shit and she's able to like kind of really control it, not make it too much, not make it over the top, make it like really subdued. And I was just I thought she was perfect casting for this. I couldn't see anybody else in this role, to be honest.
And I think a movie like this also, like this film specifically, requires her performance to really carry the themes and the film.
About to say that.
And it's so difficult. I imagine it's so difficult for an actor to, project things that no one has any experiences with, like, ever. And it's just interesting to see how you can encompass that. And, that's partially her brilliant performance and the direction of the film and the way it's put together. But it's just an amazing sort of lead performance, and it completely carries the themes of the film so well. And that's why I think this might be her best film. Another film she was in, actually, that I totally forgot about, that I think might be maybe her second or third behind this, is The Master.
Yeah,
that I totally forgot about.
Right.
She plays Philip Seymour
that's
Hoffman's
like
wife.
a tour de force by everybody.
It's but that's the thing, though. She's such a good actress, and she picks her parts, I think, super well. That completely complement sort of what she's able to do.
Did anybody? Sorry, continue.
No, I was just going to go off of the back of what John said, is that, like, her character is just so central to the movie. So whoever they were going to cast in that role obviously is going to carry, like, the brunt of the movie. And, like, a lot of the movie is the character in front of, like, a screen. So, like, Amy Adams is in front of probably just, like, some sort of, like, lighting grid. And, like, she's just acting with that. So to convey that emotion when you're doing that, and, like, I just thought it was just such an amazing performance, and it was so, like, nuanced and tight, and it was just such a personal story that I don't know, I just thought like it would have been hard for anybody else to fill that role. I really can't I can't think of anybody else. Who do you think could maybe have been recast?
I don't know. She was Villeneuve's first choice, by the way, for the part, and I don't really know who else. Maybe a Jessica Chastain type could have done it.
That's like I feel like that's the only, like, I can't think of anybody else other than Jessica Chastain, because she I don't think she's as good as Amy Adams, but she can do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so
what about, like, a Susan Sarandon?
Like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah. I feel like Susan Sarandon would have knocked this out in the 90s.
I feel like with Susan Sarandon, though, Susan Sarandon is like, she's more of that, she's more, it's like, I'm trying to explain, not in I don't think she's good for, science fiction. I think she's good.
This guy hates Susan Sarandon.
No, I'm about to say I fucking love Susan Sarandon, because I fucking, like, for example, Dead Man Walking, she's incredible. Bull Durham, she's fucking
Stepmom?
awesome. Yeah. Stepmom, she's incredible. But, like, she, like, her stuff is more, like, rooted in, like, not
wholesome. She's, like, wholesome. She's more wholesome. I mean, not that Amy Adams isn't wholesome, but yeah.
No, Amy Adams is pretty fucking wholesome.
Yeah.
I think the big thing with Susan Sarandon is her performances. There's, like, a seductive charm to her, especially, like, back in the day, when she was in more movies. And I think that I don't think she's would be better at playing these colder kind of roles, is I guess what I'm saying, because I mean, and this is where I think Amy Adams is just a little, like, far more, just more diverse. And I think that's the big thing with someone like Amy Adams, is that there's not a lot of actors out there who have, like, her range, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, did anybody see Hillbilly Elegy?
No.
Okay, so she's in that, and she plays, like, a complete mess, just a woman who's addicted to drugs, is a drunk, and, like, she's doing a whole other thing. It's Ron Howard's newer movie.
Glenn Close is in that, right?
Glenn Close is in that. Glenn Close is really good in it. I didn't really like that movie overall. There were elements and ideas in it that I liked. I thought Glenn Close was probably the best situation in it, but again, it just kind of shows her range. I want to move on to Jeremy Renner, because you brought it up, Lanza. First off, I can appreciate Jeremy Renner a lot more when his superpower isn't fucking archery.
Mhm.
Because I would argue that his
There's
character,
the one-liner you were talking about.
his character. No, I got Jeremy Renner one-liners all day. I got a quiver of them. No pun intended. I would argue that his character in Arrival is 300% more effective than the one in Avengers. Okay, so John, what did you think? Because I know we have to unpack what Lance said earlier as well about not liking Jeremy Renner.
I feel like all we do is unpack whatever Lanza says.
That's our company. 90% of our company's fucking time.
Yeah, that's just we're still working through like early 2011.
Honestly, I didn't mind his performance at all. I was kind of
Am I
indifferent
out to
it.
lunch?
I don't know if you're out to lunch. I just think you might be thinking about it a little bit too much, personally. But that's
just
okay.
took me out. He
That's
just took
okay.
me out.
That's what I mean. Like, to take you out, that seems very like harsh to me. At
He
least
just seems
for
so
this.
comical. He seems so
Does he?
cartoonish.
What is
Yeah,
like what specifically? What specifically is
scene,
cartoony?
right from the beginning scene when he's on the helicopter and he's like just his like mannerisms and he's like
I think you just hate him.
like who, Jeremy Renner?
That's just very harsh to me. I don't know why. It just seems very harsh.
This guy, I think maybe you got a little bit of a crush on Jeremy Renner. I
Hey,
think that's
he's a
what's
good
going
looking
on here.
dude.
He's a
good
tasty
looking guy.
dish.
He's a good looking guy.
I think the problem is his character is supposed to exist in contrast to her character. So, like, she is supposed to be more distant, analytical.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas he's supposed to be more, like, charming, saying jokes, and, like...
Well, like, I get that, but it's like, you can do that, but not have it be so hammy, I guess.
Okay, who are you casting instead of Jeremy Renner?
Literally anybody. I don't
knew
know.
you were going to say that. I was going to say...
Louis Anderson? Louis Anderson? Like, I don't give a fuck.
Soon I'll be making fries.
Jack
Honestly,
Nicholson?
you know who would have been great? You know who would have been great? I'll throw it out there.
Chris
fuck
Pratt?
it. Well, like Parks and Rec Chris Pratt. Christian Bale, I feel like, would have knocked that out of the park.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
He's too like, we have to look into the dark recesses of my soul for his character. She's doing that.
Yeah.
Like, that's what she's doing.
All right. Okay,
I need a
fine.
guy. I need someone
Christian
who's not
Bale.
going to start fucking encroaching
Have
upon.
you seen Ford vs Ferrari? He's a little
he's great.
jovial about.
He's great in Ford versus Ferrari, but I think even then he was probably like going up to fucking. Was that Ron Howard? Was that Ron Howard? Who was it? Who
What?
directed that?
James
Ford
Ford
Mangold.
versus-
James Mangold. Yeah. Okay. He probably went up to him as like, listen, I know I have these things going on in this, but like, didn't my mom do heroin or something, and I can inject that into it? Like, can I? Like,
Yeah.
I just think
He just ran up and started asking people where the trigger was.
Yeah.
I think you just needed some guy who would just. I think you needed someone like Jeremy Renner to do this. I think you can't be getting these big heady. It had to be someone who's charming and like, is he charming? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Jeremy Renner? No. Sorry.
No.
Sorry, if Jeremy Renner's listening, he's probably like, you ain't shit. And you're right, Jeremy Renner. But like, I don't know. I'm just not down with his vibe that he's putting down. Sorry.
I'm going to interject and say I don't believe in even accepting things like that from celebrities. It's like, if I want to say Jeremy Renner's dog shit, he's like, well, what have you done? I'm like, I've done nothing that makes you less dog shit. How about that?
Okay, I would say, okay, that's a bit harsh. I call his performance cartoony, and John Neal's like, that's a bit harsh. And then Kyle calls him dog shit, and John Neal's like,
No,
I'm just
Kyle's
saying,
just saying
Go-
if he
I'm
wants
just
to
saying,
call
like,
him dog
it's
shit,
like, I
he's
know,
allowed
It's like
to
if
call
I
him
talk
dog
shit about an athlete. Like if I'm like, yo, all the Edmonton Oilers are dog shit, they're gonna be like, well, what are you doing, Chunky? And I'll be like, nothing that makes you guys less dog shit. Okay, like literally, that's what it is. You are still dog shit. You can be rich and dog shit simultaneously.
yeah, the thing, like, I might be dog shit at hockey, but the thing I get paid for, I'm not dog shit at.
Fair enough.
Exactly. There you go. Let's talk a little bit about, because apparently we're getting no love for Jeremy Renner on this. Let's talk a little bit
Wait,
about.
no, you're getting 2/3 love. I'm the odd man out here.
I'm not
Remember.
even really saying Jeremy Renner is good. Like, I'm thinking about what I would cast him in. Like, first of all, fuck all of his performances in the Avengers. He was in The Bourne Identity, or The Bourne, which was the newer one, The Bourne Ultimatum.
So-
I can't
What
even
was
fuck-
the one? What was the one with the bombs?
Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker. He was not bad in Hurt Locker. I'm not.
He
gonna lie.
wasn't bad in Hurt Locker. So here, let's talk about the supporting cast. Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai himself, Forrest Whitaker.
Oh yeah,
Forrest Whitaker kills it, man. In
I love
everything.
Forrest
I don't
Whitaker.
care. He kind of just plays himself, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, like he's
except for was it Last King of Scotland? I believe he obviously
he Idi Amin.
He phoned it in on that one, eh?
No, I was gonna say he didn't play himself on that.
No.
I'm gonna say aside from that movie, he pretty much just plays himself.
Oh yeah,
I mean, honestly, fucking Forrest Whitaker, bring him out for anything.
yeah.
If we're playing if you need someone to play an old white woman, bring out fucking Forrest Whitaker.
Yo, Forrest
Because I'm
Whitaker,
down.
cast him in the lead. Get Jeremy Renner out of here. Starring Amy Adams and Forrest Whitaker. Done. So I'll sign that. I'll sign that off on the dotted line. No problem.
Do you think that they're gonna have? Do you think that Forrest Whitaker and her could potentially develop a romantic relationship? I mean, I think so.
Well, why not?
I think
Forrest
it's
Whitaker.
inevitable. I mean, time is an illusion. It's already predetermined.
It's fucking. He has animal magnetism. He's a fantastic actor. I mean, he's one of the greats of his generation, and it's from character acting, to a lead. He can do it. Let's talk about Michael Stuhlbarg. This guy fucking works.
He works.
TV. He's fucking Boardwalk Empire. He was just doing Your Honor, which is the that Bryan Cranston show that just came out.
Is that good? I've heard mixed things about that.
I wasn't too into it, but other people I know like it. I mean, this dude was in fucking he was in the Steve Jobs biopic. Which movie did you mention earlier? He was in fucking
Serious Man. Don't forget
Serious Man. He was fucking really good. What do we think of him?
He's great in this. Like I said, I was big upping him earlier when I was saying how reasonable everyone was being, and I think that's the thing, man. They got Forrest Whitaker and him, and like playing these sort of supporting characters that are supposed to be, these sort of pessimistic sort of types, and they just. Everybody kills it in those parts, in the supporting parts in the movie. I think him included.
We talked about Z Ma earlier, who plays the general. He's great. He's in a lot of stuff too, low key. He was in somehow Dante's Peak, which I didn't remember him until I actually dove into it. I remember him in Rush Hour and Rush Hour 3.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Tiger Tail. He was in that. He was quite good in it. I mean, he's a really good actor. I haven't seen him in 24, but judging by his IMDb, he was in the movie. He was in the show 24. Again, he was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, his performance in that scene where everything's coming together and they meet at that gala was incredible. Like everything was in the eyes. It was just chef's kiss.
Apparently, he was in an episode of The Cosby Show. Interesting.
Really?
That's going back.
That's going back. Pre-rape Bill Cosby, or probably just no. He did that in the 70s, so just no. So I'm gonna ask a quick question. Did you at any point wish Roger Deakins shot this? It was shot by Bradford Young. Was there any points where we're like, we need a Deakins touch, or how did we feel about the way this looked?
No, how it looks is part of its sort of mystique. The way it's shot, the very subtle camera movements, everything's kind of revealed slowly, and it's perfectly paced with the editing style of the film. I actually think it was after the fact, because I just assume it's Villeneuve. He's worked with Deakins twice prior to this film on Prisoners and Sicario, that naturally it would just be him doing it again. I had to look up who the DP was because I had no idea who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the lighting was really quite nice, and the cinematography was really beautiful. Like you had this I don't know, I kind of felt like it just kept in the theme of the movie. Like you kind of had this really soft lighting all the way through that kind of symbolized the almost like the void that the aliens live in, the cephalopods.
Yeah.
Cephalopods, yeah.
It's a squid.
Yeah. No, what do they call it? Heptapods?
Heptapods.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just thought the lighting and everything was really well done. I could obviously say Deakins should shoot everything ever. But yeah, no, I thought the guy that shot this, what's his name?
Bradford Young.
Bradford Young. Yeah, I thought he did a really nice job. I was taking a look at his IMDb, and he did some other nice some other, he did like Selma and what was some
That
other
was a
stuff.
well shot movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did a couple other things. So I was like, oh yeah, this guy shot that. Okay, cool. But yeah, I thought they that he did a really good job. And then he's coming, and then he's worked how many times since with Deakins, Villeneuve?
Since this film,
Yeah,
once Blade Runner.
once. That's it. Okay.
And
And then who shot Dune?
It's the gentleman that is shooting the Batman right now. I
Okay.
forget his name. I'll look him up though.
it's funny because you mentioned the lighting, and like Denis Villeneuve going into this was very much like, we need a cinematographer who's good with natural light, because that's kind of what he was looking for, and they decided to go with Bradford Young. I think it looks great. I also was reading a lot about just like what they were looking for in this. Obviously, as I just mentioned, the the natural lighting, but also like they were kind of like fuck skin tones on this, and wanted a more like gray, like kind of washed out like look, where, well, not washed out, but
Like color palette.
yeah, the color palette is more gray and dreary, and not so much, and then contrasting some of the flashbacks and such, and the flash forwards, like in the general scene, which I think is like altogether a lot more warm. So like, I mean, he did a great job. He's done some good work. I thought this looked really good. I really enjoyed the visual style. I thought it worked well. I thought it worked well for what the VFX mock-up of the aliens were and everything, because obviously they didn't have a ton of budget to do massive VFX shit and all this kind of stuff. So they kind of put it all together in a way that worked really well visually. So I thought they were able to do that really well. And like, again, this is a $47 million movie, and it's sure as hell better than fucking some of the 200, 250, $300 million movies that are put together.
Greg Fraser is the name of the DP that's doing Dune. So yeah, he's doing the Batman right now, and he did 3 episodes of The Mandalorian. He's worked on Vice, Rogue One, Star Wars Story, Foxcatcher, Zero Dark 30. That kind of thing.
So he's got this shit going.
Oh yeah.
So one of the final things I want to look at before we get into, where does this rank in the Denis Villeneuve catalog? This is Denis Villeneuve's first foray into science fiction, but now as we anticipate Dune, he's become the sci-fi hot hand. What about this film showed his ability to work in the genre? What stylistically does he do different from other directors?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things, like for science fiction, he made it more about character. Like we mentioned it multiple times for this, but he really anchored the whole plot of this movie on character. While you don't see that, for a lot of science fiction pictures, you're gonna see things anchored on explosions and big spectacle events. This movie focused on character, so I think that really shows where his head is at. Like when it comes to a film, it's like characters first, like story first, not just blow shit up.
Yeah. I think the big thing about him is, at heart, he's an art director, and he's an art house filmmaker at heart. And yes, all of his stories lean heavy on character. I think the film that initially brought him to the attention of, who's the original writer, Kyle? It's Ted Chiang. Is that his name?
Chiang, yeah.
They showed him a cut of Incendies when they were pitching Denis Villeneuve to him, and I think it was when he saw that he was like, "Yeah, this is the guy to do it."
Well,
even though
the author said that this is like the only time he's ever seen an adaptation that's as good as the original work.
Yeah, but like that's the thing, right? As far as him getting ready to do Dune, this is sort of the film that opens the door. Even more so really than Blade Runner, because Blade Runner sort of, it establishes him being able to work with these huge, unbelievable set piece visuals. So that's one part of it. But then it's his ability to get inside the head of the characters and tell a very subtle inward story amidst all of this grand spectacle. And that's what Dune needs as far as a storyteller, because there's so much internal character stuff with Dune, so much inner monologue, that I feel like he might be the only one living right now able to deal with films on this scale that is able to do it justice, just because of the fact that he relies so heavily on his ability to deal with characters, their emotions, and how that correlates to the story. So
yeah, you know what I think Denis Villeneuve does differently in a flick like Prisoners versus a flick like Arrival? Fucking absolutely nothing. He just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not bullied by genre. He doesn't have to try to become a different filmmaker because he's doing a sci-fi film, and there has to be like, it changes process, and characters are still characters. Story is still story. They have wants, needs, and sensitivities, you know, and they're reacting to their world and what's happening in it. And for some reason, with a lot of science fiction stuff, as soon as the director's like, oh, it's science fiction, it's like their sense of character and those fundamental ideas go out the fucking window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's like Game of Thrones with fantasy. You know what I mean?
And that's one of the things that he brought to Blade Runner that was actually different than what Ridley Scott brought to it, because Ridley Scott kind of brought sort of this world. It wasn't really about a character and sort of their inward journey. It was more about just introducing the audience to this cyberpunk landscape, and we got to follow a Blade Runner, but that was about it. Whereas Villeneuve really got inside the head of an actual replicant and told the story through the character in a way that the first movie didn't. The first movie set the groundwork and all of that, but it enabled Villeneuve to come in and do what he does best and give it a spin that is uniquely his. And I think that's what I loved about it so much, was just that we actually got to explore a character that was a replicant, and that made it so much more interesting.
And that's a great point.
I use the example of like Game of Thrones, like Benioff and Weiss, and like how that is two different shows. When they're focusing on character and all that shit, the show is amazing, and they're, you know what I mean. But the second they like come to and realize they're making a fantasy show as well, it just goes completely off the fucking rails, and they just like abandon what they're doing. And
well, because I feel like they got their characterization from the books, and then they got, you know, the big set piece moments. Obviously, some of them are from the books. Later seasons aren't. Those big set piece moments, they just kind of, you know, they're choreographing that on their own. But those set piece moments are good in Game of Thrones. But yeah, it went like the earlier seasons. Obviously, when you have the characterization,
it's once you start working with genre, are you behaving differently? You know what I mean? Like I feel like a lot of your craft departments are what help you deal with genre. You know what I mean? Like the fucking, the camera, lighting, fucking props, art direction, that kind of stuff. That really gives it to you. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to see through, like, see the forest from the trees and acknowledge that at the end of the day, you're still dealing with people, wants and needs that are trying to do something and get something. And when you lose that, it just becomes, what you do is it starts only becoming plot driven, and then it's shit. You know what I mean? With his style, everything is far more organic. It's done subtly. There's no gloss, and it just feels like something that is real. And I think that like this is where we really see how we can take what he does and then put it into like a super genre film, and it works really fucking well.
He has been quoted as saying that in his opinion it's by far the best film he's made, which is Dune. So that makes me very happy. And it's not necessarily building my hype up just because, I've read the book. I know what he's dealing with. It's a lot to deal with in order to do it justice. Like, it's a Lord of the Rings level weight on his shoulder with Dune. And I am so excited to see what he does with it, just on a character level, because that's where his strengths are. And like, even through all of his films, Incendies, Prisoners, Sicario, they're all focused on these really interesting characters, these leading characters. And yeah, I'm so pumped to see what he does with Paul Atreides. It's going to be awesome.
Let's finish up by talking about where this film ranks in his catalog.
I'd say it's my favorite of his, for sure. Blade Runner would be the only close second, but this I think is his best work so far.
I'm a little biased to the Blade Runner thing, obviously, because I love Blade Runner. So this is probably taking, and Sicario. Like Sicario was really my first.
Sicario's sick. Sicario's
so good.
That was really my first introduction to Denis Villeneuve was Sicario. But honestly, you can pretty much stack any of his previous. Like Incendies hit me really hard when I saw it the first time. It's a magnificent film, and
even Prisoners, man. Prisoners is just so visceral, just so grimy. Yeah. You just feel gross after that fucking movie. And it's just like everything works, but it's just like the guy was already an established director coming out of, Quebec. And, that kind of says something. I know we don't have this on the docket to talk about, but it's just kind of interesting how you have the francophone, the Quebec movie industry that really kind of champions itself, and people go to the movies in Quebec and watch Quebec-made movies, and you really see a support for the art, for film, for Quebec is a province in Canada, obviously. For they really support their films, and you can go to a lot of movie theaters in Quebec, and you can watch a movie direct. That is a full. It's in French. It's made by a full Quebec crew, actors, whatever. And you see some of these movies bleed into the mainstream, like Good Cop, Bon Cop, and some other stuff. If that is the title, I can't remember exactly, but it goes to show you that people can make it in that industry. And this guy came out of Quebec already. I think he directed 3 movies before that.
Incendies would be his last one that was, I believe, solely
and
produced
that really
in Quebec.
broke him. Yeah, and then that really broke him through.
Yeah.
And it's like and you don't have that in Canada. You don't have
You mean in Ontario, outside of Quebec?
Yeah, outside of Quebec. You don't have that in the rest of Canada, where you can go see a lot of times. I mean, obviously now movie theaters are closed, but you don't have times where you can go to the movies and watch a Canadian-made movie. Once in a while, you will be able to, but it's only if that movie kind of has already gotten big in America, and Quebec isn't waiting for America to make their actors, directors, whatever big. They're doing it themselves, and I have so much respect for that. And it's just how you have Maple. For the Canadian recording industry, where you get tax credits for having the music, the artist, the lyrics, whatever, are all Canadian, and you have certain content that has to be played on the radio that's Canadian. Why the hell can't you do that at theaters? I'll tell you, distribution is owned by American companies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to. And they don't want to pack houses for Canadian movies, but. Having said that, I just wish, that's a bit of a tangent, I just wish we had more of that kind of support for Canadian film that
I think it's
the Quebecers
a good point, because you have Xavier Dolan, guy wins Palme d'Or, coming out of the Quebec scene. You have Jean-Marc Vallée, who is a very popular TV, director and creator, and there's just a better support. This is kind of why I think online, I lament the decline of theaters, but in some ways it offers opportunities for different
avenues.
Different avenues for Canadian filmmakers and stuff. But really proud that this guy is Canadian. He's really good. I think that I go back and forth, because I think with Blade Runner, there was a lot of pressure to make that good. That could have been bad. Right,
and
the people
he was worried about it.
For sure,
he was worried about it.
When you first hear about that sequel to Blade Runner, you're like, "Fuck off!" But then, as soon as you hear Villeneuve and Deakins, you're like, "Okay, all right."
Yeah.
I can't believe I doubted him, because I had lots of doubts, and it was mostly because Blade Runner is probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
Listen, at some point he's gonna make a not good one.
Yes,
he's gonna make a flop. I mean, it's not yet.
It's not. It's inevitable.
Could be Dune.
I don't think.
I don't think so. I'm just saying.
I don't think it's going to be Dune. After Blade Runner, I'm pretty confident. I'm hoping.
Remember when we thought Tenet was going to be amazing?
Yeah, and it wasn't. This is another thing. Denis Villeneuve makes the films that Chris Nolan thinks he's making.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's shots fired.
I mean, it's not shot, is it though? Like, it's kind of true. Arrival deals with a lot of the same ideas as far as time.
It's
and
not
perception.
so convoluted.
It's not as convoluted, and it doesn't even require as much explanation, and it has more of an emotional impact.
It's not so jerk-offy.
Sure, yeah, but
it's like, and for me, I think this is probably his best. And then I'd probably give it to like Blade Runner, but like I really love his fucking movies. Like
Yeah.
he's a really talented director. I believe he's the most talented director working in film today. And Chris Nolan can suck one on that.
he's also still pretty much solely making films for the theater, which is another reason why, you know, I think he's what you were just saying. He's probably the best working director, at least right at this very moment.
This guy can take my money. Like
he can take all of my fucking money.
Yeah, he can take my money because he's putting out, like, there's a dedication.
You guys are simping for Villeneuve. Eh?
We're simping for Villeneuve.
I'm 100%. Yeah.
He sets up these fucking Arrival thirst traps, and we just like they're like nerd thirst traps.
They are nerd thirst traps. They are.
They're like nerd thirst traps. And I mean, what he does is absolutely fucking incredible. And this is the thing with, again, like, why he okay, here's the thing. Chris Nolan tries to make everything complicated, right? The things in this are simple ideas that become complex because that is the nature of the story. Yeah. That just happens, right? Mm-hmm. And his ability to do that, fantastic.
But it's also rooted in, since it's rooted in character, you always have that anchor. You're not just some you're not some random fucking blade of grass in the wind flowing in this whirlwind that is a movie. You're like with Amy Adams, you're with her character, you're centered in that role. You're with her and you just go on this journey with her. Mm-hmm. You don't have that in a lot of Nolan's newer movies.
I would say his style is if you took Terrence Malick and fucking Chris Nolan and smash them together. Yeah. Because he doesn't have the convolutedness of like Chris Nolan, but he also doesn't have the like.
He has the tightness that Malick doesn't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And also he doesn't have like 3-minute time lapse of a leaf. Yeah. And like,
he's got a script.
Yeah, he's got a script. It's not like Tree of Life.
Yeah, it didn't have to be a 4.5-hour movie.
Yeah, it's like.
Having said that, I love Malick movies. I'm not gonna lie.
I like Malick movies except Tree of Life.
Yeah, Tree of Life was a mess.
Yeah. It's just, I'm like, this is the most masturbatory thing I have ever seen.
I saw it at theaters, and I was
saw
just
it together. Me and you, Lanza, we went and saw it.
Oh, us too. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
you guys went together to see it.
We saw.
Yo, we were holding hands the whole time. Actually, I remember now.
That's the only thing that would make it entertaining.
I think honestly, that movie was probably just an excuse to go out and shoot a bunch of beautiful images for a few months.
Oh yeah, it looked good, except for that whole like fucking heaven CG hell at the end.
That's right.
Speaking of CG hell, this movie still had some of that, like a couple times, like at the end when her hair is all like weightless. I'm just like, oh, like
that scene is the one where they like she gets brought into the alien environment.
I'm just like, you could have done this more in a practical way and have it look less bad. I don't know. And then also, like I said earlier, the scene with like when they're like going up the shaft for the first time and like the gravity changes and like their faces are like pasted on. I'm just like, oh, this looks so bad. I'm like, I don't know. Like obviously I can't do any better.
It's still, again, remember what I said, it's still it can be still dog shit.
I know. I just hate talking shit about art because I know people put their time and energy and money and people's jobs and like passions were into those shots. And it's like I feel bad, but it's just like, man,
they can take comfort in knowing at least that the film's success wasn't hindering on that, and the film's a home run either way. Just
also, I'm pretty sure did the best with what they had.
Yes,
exactly. That's 100%. That's what I said from the top. From the top of the podcast. Like, if this movie had like another like 10 mil, like I feel like it would have just had that polish that would have just made it look so slick. Because even you have movies at the time, like even movies like District 9. District 9 came out what, like 10 years before this movie?
2009 or just prior to that or something.
I'd say the VFX in District 9 hold up way better than the effects in Arrival.
Yeah,
Personally,
that's fair.
it looked more like the grittiness looked more real. This, I don't know, like it's just so many times when they showed like the alien craft, it always just kind of just seemed pasted on a lot of the times. And like again, I know they were doing the best they were working with, but
also Blomkamp is a former VFX guy as well, so
fair.
There's probably
he shot for it,
there's probably some of that involved as well.
Really good.
Yeah,
point,
because
really
that's like Jim Cameron doing fucking Terminator 2. Like he was a special effects guy. He's like, listen, I'll tell you how to blow up a fucking city. Okay, I fucking know how to do it. And so
like, there's a lot of VFX in David Fincher's movies because he's a former ILM guy, but you don't know, like you would never be able to spot them. That's how good they are because of just his experience. But anyway,
in David Fincher's movies.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
really.
There's a lot of VFX in David Fincher. You should go on
VFX,
YouTube.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I don't know why. I thought you were talking about practical effects. My apologies.
Yeah, but just
there's an explosion in the middle of fucking what's the Facebook fucking
social network.
Social network. There's just a truck just blows up.
That bullet time sequence was sick in Social Network.
Yeah.
Next level, bro.
It's just slow coding. On that slow coding note, gentlemen, we got to get going. Thank you so much for doing this. And we're going to be back. I think we're going to be doing Prisoners in the next one is going to be on this. So everyone look out for it. And gentlemen, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun, guys.
All right. You can catch Andrew Lance on Buffs and Nerfs with his friend, Sam Hall. Anyways, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.